Hello guys, welcome back to Doggo Card Reviews. We are back with another installation to our Scrapbowl series. This will be episode 2, our Beginner's Guide to Competitive Play. Gavin and I will take you along the path of what it means to become a competitive player, but before we do that, we do have a disclaimer.
Okay, as with all other games, Weiss Schwarz is something as you as an individual should have the penultimate decision of how you go about playing it. The following is just simply a guide for those who are considering to become a more competitive player. We at Doggo Card Reviews insist you choose what is best for you. Common sense, but again, I feel that common sense is not so common nowadays.
It'd be like that. Alright, so as now that you have decided not to click off the video, we will go ahead and begin with the first question that one should ask yourself. Is competitive Weiss Schwarz for me?
So basically, Weiss, like all competitive games, it's gonna take time. Like, you're not gonna get good overnight. Like, it's one of those things that you need to put in time and effort into. As with all competitive games, you're gonna need to dedicate at least a good chunk of it. You gotta be willing to spend the time to do the research, research deck lists, brew, and even go about talking with other people as to whether or not, that particular deck that you chose is any good or not. Because, I'd hate for an aspiring competitive player to be playing, jank from 2016 or some shit like that.
So, yeah.
And of course, you got to realize, hey, this deck isn't working. Got to fix it.
And on top of that, you also have that attitude and drive to be willing to get better. If you don't have that drive to get better to begin with, why are you really here to become competitive? You really, it's all about attitude. You gotta have the right mentality and mindset to want to improve.
Like I said, if you don't care, then don't bother. Now, here's one of my favorite questions. So, basically, sometimes being competitive means abandoning your favorite shows and favorite characters to play things that are just objectively much better. Like, of course, if these things happen to line up, then yeah, sure, more power to you. But at the same time, as a competitive player, let's say, for example, you don't like isekai shows. There's a lot of powerful stuff outside of isekai, but again, isekai is a very, very powerful genre within this game. Like, Jesus Christ, they keep printing all these isekai shows, and they happen to be pretty good and pretty recent. Now, go ahead.
So, and on top of that, while Weiss Schwarz is definitely a very unique type of game where you get to play all these different franchises, as Gavin is alluding to, we just simply have to choose sometimes, like, hey, if what I like simply isn't performing enough, I gotta pick something that does if I really want to continue this goal of racking up a bunch of wins.
Or another, one of the big things is that, like, well, sometimes, like, if you don't like a lot of popular anime, then you're really gonna have a hard time in being competitive in this game, because honestly, what's popular, it's what's gonna be powerful in a lot of cases. Like, a certain sect of people are like, ew, idols. Like, there's too much idol spam. I'm like, because idols sell and they're powerful. Like, I can't lie, but idols are just good. And of course, you'll have your one-off exceptions that were powerful at the time, but will slowly get power crept out of the game. But of course, at the end of the day, you have to make that decision as to whether or not. Now, of course, peer pressure. Your peers might pressure you into playing things that you actually legitimately enjoy rather than it them being good.
So, well, moving to our next point here. Can you really accept possibly burning the bridge between yourself and the more casual players that you run along the way? Because being competitive does mean to develop attitudes and a mentality that casual players will simply be unable to agree with. So you will have to eventually come to a point where you have to make that social sacrifice for the sake of your personal growth and improvement as a player.
Now, this point isn't necessarily true, because you don't necessarily have to make those social sacrifices, because you'll be going into other circles. They won't be with casual players anymore. They will be with the competitive crowd. Mm-hmm. Now, however, a lot of people will, sometimes fall into the trap of they're competitive. They're too competitive for the casual crowd, but they kind of alienate themselves from the competitive crowd because, you disagree with a lot of the competitive mentality. Like, sure, I disagree with a lot of the competitive mentality, and yet I'm, a competitive player myself, because I like to see possibilities that competitive players won't recognize. They're just like, what is this trash? I'm like, this trash just beat you. Get good. like, a person was able to see the flaws, see the holes in your deck, looks at your deck list and sees the general pattern behind your decks and sees the flaws behind said decks, and is able to exploit it / defeat it. And of course, they never expect something like the Spanish Inquisition. So now, of course, coming from a more casual card game, or more like a casual sect of a particular card game, it kind of breeds you into that comfortable mentality. But how should I say this? As a competitor, once you get competitive, don't become too comfortable. Mm-hmm. Because that will cause you to rust over time.
Mm-hmm. And as we go next over to our next main section here, once that you have decided, like, yes, this going competitive in Weiss Schwarz is definitely for me, you again have to ask yourself, how is it that I can improve at the game of Weiss Schwarz? Right. So, as we were saying earlier about trying to hang out with different players that are competitive, seek better players to consult and playtest with. It's unrealistic to expect to get better by playing against a bunch of people who are clearly inferior to you in terms of player skill. So we recommend that you do what you can to find players you know or will meet across different events and so on across your Weiss Schwarz career, that you can go, yeah, I could probably gain some new information and skill sets from these people.
Now, of course, with that point, a lot of people will tunnel vision themselves. A lot of people will tunnel vision themselves and only listen to, a handful of people that are quote unquote pros. Mm-hmm. Now, while this advice applies in general, I agree with it. However, don't discount the crazy guy, because the crazy guy might have a point. Now, of course, most people are like maniacs. They're crazy, this deck will never work for me, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay. You never actually have to implement his ideas. At least give him the time of day and listen to him before you just brush him off completely. Mm-hmm. But of course, 90-95% of people will just be like, ignore him. He's the maniac.
Right.
He is the one person in the room that, if you face him, is an auto loss. But again, he's one person in the room. Now,
we definitely do strongly recommend having an open mind and being humble. Be an open book that has pages that have yet to be written.
Right, and of course, beasting on scrubs all day is not going to help you improve. Of course not. Like, literally, all you're doing is making yourself look like the villain in that case because, look, beating up on bad players, isn't going to help your case. It's not going to help you get better because, honestly, beating up lower skill players isn't challenging. Now, of course, it can feel satisfying, yes, if you've had a bad day, sure. And I've done that. I'm guilty of it myself. You know, as a Call of Duty player, you go, yeah, I want to beast on bad kids all day. But again, there's a difference between a card game and a video game. A card game is almost, everybody is... I can kind of connect it to because guess what? Imagine in a card game, for all the video game players, imagine in a card game, skill-based matchmaking is always turned on. Basically, you're facing people of equivalent skill level at all times, as opposed to facing bad kids all day. But at the same time, you're not going to improve your rating, your supposed rating, by facing these bad kids all day. Imagine, if you will, as a competitive player, you face nothing but the rounds 1 and 2 people at the BCS all day for the entire tournament. I think majority of competitive players will grow bored of that. They're just facing nothing but, of course, I don't mind it, because that's free and easy wins, but I'm the exception, not the rule. Like, you want to consult with better players at all times. Like, of course, in fact, I had a conversation last night with some people in regards to Data Live, and I have a gigantic distaste for the fake burb combo. And when people are like, the fake burb combo is good, I'm just like, it's not really all that great.
Right.
It's not really all that great, and of course, I have a much higher preference towards the book combo. But anyway, so in terms of seeking better players, definitely in general you should, but don't discount the crazy people. Is all I'm saying.
Right. Again, leave an open mind, be humble, and I might be a good place to transition over to this next point. Learn to maintain perseverance and avoid getting discouraged, and just avoid being tilted by various upsets. Because let's face it, losses can happen to players of all skill levels. Like, sure, you may, even the best player can just eventually lose to some RNG or something. But we say to take losses as an opportunity to learn and improve, because no one should expect to make progress without making mistakes, period.
And that's a very good point. Okay, so scenario. You could lose, the world champion can lose to, a beginner, first game ever with a trial deck. Will it happen? Not very likely, but you know what? It can and it will eventually. Give that, and of course the world champion will probably rage that they lost to a beginner with a trial deck. And that's the kind of toxicity that turns people away from this game. Like losing to RNG, I'm like, you're playing a card game. RNG is inherent.
Right.
And of course,
the good thing that Weiss Schwarz does allow is the fact that while players can be negatively become affected by RNG, that player who got negatively affected also has an opportunity to retaliate pretty well.
Right. It's not like it's, say, in Magic where, I'm flooded with land and I'm drawing nothing but land for the next 8 turns. I might as well just concede. Now, of course, don't get discouraged if you're continuously losing for an afternoon. Like, I myself get heated. I mean, this guy has seen me get heated over losing repeatedly. And you know what? You will make mistakes. And guess what? Getting heated will cause you to make mistakes, which will cause you to lose more matches. It's a snowball effect.
So maybe thinking like if you do have like an off day at your local tournament or something, maybe just like take the next weekend off or something. Maybe a break away from the game, like a short break, not a very long one, could help.
It could help, or and of course you need to maintain your cool while playing this game. Otherwise, well, the results are going to be catastrophic. It's going to be one of those things like you can't really. How should I say this? Getting mad at the game isn't going to help. Saying this game sucks, stuff like that isn't going to help your case. And guess what? It's only gonna make things worse for you, to be honest.
So like as we said earlier, it's all about attitude and mentality. All right, so let's move on. Talking about speaking of results, am I really truly making progress, and how can I tell? So maybe do something like playing against players you used to lose against frequently too, and as well as deck types. And see how well you've come after trying like a few months or so of working towards becoming more competitive. And start seeing, can you start predicting what your opponents will do during games with your newly gained knowledge and skill set. And also watch other people play and see if you can go, okay, if I was X person, will I do Y plays or will I do Z play? Go for the most optimal play in the scenario you see. Without interfering, of course.
Now, of course. And guess what? So, back in the day, my God, this happened to me all the time. Frequently losing. And see how I fare after some time. And I was able to start predicting my opponent's moves after a while. Because guess what? Weiss Schwarz is a game of predictability. After a while, you can pretty much, if you see a deck list, you'll be able to pretty much predict your opponent's moves pretty easily, once you get more and more experienced at the game.
And eventually, just seeing something like the first mullet or the first initial discard or the first card going into clock, you're like, oh, I know what to expect from here.
Now sets are getting better at diversifying themselves, so they're not all just one-trick ponies. Like you see. Actually, let me provide a good example. SAO. You're less like, oh crap. There's a lot of possibilities in SAO.
Yeah.
A set that has an anime that has like 50 fucking sets. Like, oh crap. It's like I can't necessarily predict what they're gonna do. But after the first 3 turns, I know their game plan. I know their battle plan. Or hell, even Dakapo / Del Segno. I'm just like, oh crap, what the hell does Dakapo do? And of course, even competitive players don't know every single set in their head.
Oh yeah, no. There's so many.
For example, Nanoha. Does anyone with not? If you ask a room of 100 competitive players, or at least those that claim to be competitive, what Nanoha does, you're gonna get less than probably 10 people that know what the hell Nanoha does. They're gonna say, I have no idea.
Because, frankly speaking, some people are just like, I'll keep track of what I get exposed to frequently.
Right, and of course, how to tell you're making progress is basically you're building up your knowledge base, you're noticing yourself making less mistakes, and of course being able to theorize optimal lines of play. Hell, I do that constantly myself. I'm able to predict my partner's game plan here, and of course he's like, oh crap, yep. Well, I mean, we can theorize each other's game plan. We don't even need to look at the other person's hand.
Yeah.
Though sometimes I wonder, wait, what the hell is he doing?
Sometimes that does happen.
What the hell is he doing? But at the same time, he's all like, yeah, I'm screwed. Oh.
Yeah,
and then
sometimes I play out of a very shitty situation.
I mean, and of course, he wonders, he asks the same question, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm fucked.
Sometimes that's how Weiss Schwarz is, you gotta find different ways.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, here's a paddle. Here's a paddle. Get out of shit creek now.
Pretty much.
Well, let's move on to the next one.
Sure thing. So, how should one go about constructing and optimizing a deck? Alright, so as we were saying earlier, sometimes you just gotta simply select the better, more competitive titles over the ones you actually like, if the two are different. Because you're a competitive player, your main goal is to get as many wins as possible, so building and playing the most capable decks is very paramount. And this goal does require you to abandon playing cards and decks that contain series and characters you hold dear to you.
Or unless your taste happens to align with what's competitive.
Right. Now, the thing is, hey, maybe it's also an opportunity to check out a new title, but, that's not why you're here. You're here to get a bunch of wins. That's your first goal. Anime can come later.
I was about to say, man, we see a bunch of anime on our cards, but at the same time we're going, no, bro, we're here to win.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck anime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, some people will tell you differently. They're like, no, you should select your favorite IP/characters over fucking meta. Don't be a fucking sweat lord. I'm like, now, that works to a certain degree. That's what I was talking about earlier, the peer pressure. Peer pressure might be like, well, don't be like that. Don't go down that path. I'm just going, yes. But in other games like Magic the Gathering, I don't care about waifus, I care about winning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll fucking play Tron all fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, other people are like, well, before the major ban happened, people are like, why not play Thunder Dragons or Sky Strikers in Yu-Gi-Oh? I think my partner could hit home with that statement.
Right. So, right before that happens, sometimes you could be like, yes, I could play this, but then you go, well, there's also other decks that are like, they have favorable matchups against both Thunder and Sky Striker, like something like Orcus as an example.
Right, but why not play either of those two meta decks? Right. Now, of course, in both Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, there are counters printed for them.
Right.
In Weiss Schwarz, oh my god, no.
Yeah, so that's going to definitely bring us towards our next point here about, what makes X set or X title so good for competitive play. And the fact is, most suitable titles and sets for competitive play contain high-quality cards that allow players to gain massive amounts of card advantage to stabilize their game stakes towards their favor, as well as possibly containing ways to deny opponents from doing the same thing. And these may also contain ways to guarantee enough damage to deal lethal in the course of a single turn, and or increase survivability until lethal can be achieved in the end game.
Now, of course, attention to all aspiring competitive players. Do not miss lethal. Don't miss it. Don't be blind. Mm-hmm. Know when lethal is achieved. Now, of course, I will actually provide a few examples of it. Ah, yes, I will talk about my Queen of the Skies, Albuta. So, Albuta has a lot of quality cards that just go, ha! There are now, of course, there are a lot of certain card profiles that a lot of competitive players look for. Mm-hmm. Such as Brainstorm, tap self, plussing Brainstorms, Climax Swappers, Clean Cuts, drop searches, good level 1 combos, rekeys, good early plays. Now, anti-change counters. Of course, I probably just bombarded you with a lot of terminology, but at the same time, these are the things that competitive players are looking for, and these are the things that make a deck competitive, make a deck or set competitive. Because now let's look at Now, of course, Albuta has literally all the things I mentioned. Not all of them are played, of course, but again, a lot of these things are mentioned. Very competent finishers. A certain girl who's wearing a certain girl who I think is a certain planeswalker in disguise. hey man, she's adorable. Are you kidding me? Adorable. But at the same time, I go, huh? Wait, why is it good? Or why is it, And of course, you go, wait, this sounds bananas. This sounds like bananas. Like, holy crap, this card is good. Or this set is really horrible because it doesn't give it any options. Like, I'll take a recently complained about set, Magia Record, the anime. Holy crap, there is a lot of garbage in that set. They're like a lot of the double rares are just cards they didn't need, like a bomb, a level 0 bomb that goes stock whenever your opponent plays a climax. They already have these cards at home. A lot of their points were like, well, a lot of the complaints were about, well, these are cards that Magia Record doesn't need to be a competitive set, and it makes you wonder what makes a competitive set, and it just goes, well, you're looking for certain profiles and assembling, each stage of the deck, level 0, 1, and 3. Because who the fuck plays actual level 2s anymore besides standby decks? You're looking for methods to bridge the gap. Like, obviously, decks from yesteryear can't perform anymore because they have too many holes, or their tools are just too outdated to compete anymore. Now, of course, in terms of competitive play, I would start with a competitive deck first, and then learning that competitive deck before going forward with set. Now, of course, decks can also have appealing niches that appeal you towards that set competitively. Like, for example, Charlotte. Charlotte is one of the best defensive decks in the game. It is so defensive. It has no kill power. It has literally 0 kill power. But you know what? What makes Charlotte good? I mean, goddamn. Like, I think I'll pass the baton over to you, partner. What makes Charlotte so good?
All right. So it has a very, very rare profile that negates damage dealt by auto effects, which is most of what a lot of titles use stuff like this. If on Castleberg, deal X, or on reverse, deal X, or on play, deal X, something like that. Climax couple, deal X. No, all that stuff does not work with Charlotte. You also play a very rare card that allows you to prevent an opponent from front attacking. Like, oh, you want to actually do that 3? No, you're doing base 0 on this lane.
Which is just absurd. And of course, you don't always need a finisher, but however, most decks do have some sort of finisher. Charlotte just happens to be the rare exception where, no, here's your finisher. It's called the 30-minute time limit.
Right, like, basically, that's part of the increased survivability until lethal can be achieved. Charlotte's aim is to tire you the F out until it can actually get lethal from raw soul damage.
Or until both of you lose, thanks to the 30-minute time limit.
which is part of why maybe Charlotte's going to get abandoned in the coming months.
Because, well, as of this recording, in the middle of August, Japan is currently holding its World Grand Prix season. Something that the rest of the world should be holding as well. I've been foaming at the mouth for it for months now, but at the same time... Anyway.
So, moving along. Is it better to copy a deck you found on the internet, or is it better to make your own deck? We say when you're starting off, it's most likely better to see what successful players have built and won with. However, as you continue to develop as a player, you may find that what top-end players have built and played to success might not really suit your needs and wants about how you want to go about a particular title, so coming up with your own build might lead you towards better results.
Okay, if you ask the competitive community, they will almost always tell you to net deck. If you ask me, brewing yourself is much better. Because, okay, so let me define the pros and cons behind each of them. So, Net decking, sure. A lot of players don't feel like thinking. They don't feel like thinking. They just feel like copying decks that have been proven successful. Blah 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 blah. But guess what? Guess what? The tools that they may use in their decks may not be successful for you. In fact, net decking, honestly, could lead you to more losses than victories. Because guess what? Net decking, everybody has access to the same information you do. For the most part. So when you're net decking a list, people are going to pretty much know card for card your entire list. Mm-hmm. If you brew something yourself, there might be certain little texts that people have no idea about, and that you can catch them off guard. Mm-hmm. In fact,
yeah. I should mention another con about net decking. Another con about net decking is this: you don't know what that player was really thinking when that person came up with the deck. You don't know what they were trying to prepare for. You don't know what they were trying to... you do not know their full justifications of why they play X card in Y quantity.
Right, and even if you read a deck, read a deck primer, or you're watching a deck tech on YouTube, you may not have the full thoughts about it. However, when you're brewing something yourself, a lot of the competitive community will tell you, brewing yourself is a waste of time. And I'm like, again, you also have full control over that brew. You also have full control over it, because when you look at it, like, you could design all of the tools to, fit your own needs.
Right.
Oh my god.
I would say net decking does have its pros. And we'll put it this way: seeing what other people do, seeing what might be common, is very handy. Notice a common trend, like, why is it that every player of a title like, say, Konosuba is playing the early play Aqua Healer?
Because the card's pretty good.
Right.
Honestly.
So, you will see these common, you'll see some commonly used cards across decks of the same title. They might differ in terms of quantities or maybe certain combos they choose to use, but you might see that all decks of the same title that have been successful are using the same card in more or less the same quantity.
Now, of course, a lot of competitive players, especially in this game, will parrot Japan. Will parrot Japanese lists. And I go, Japanese lists, specifically Japan, in this case, they play in a very specific manner. Pretty much they don't fear any form of responses, because nobody plays those responses. Those responses are considered bad. Or they have a silent gentleman's agreement to not play said responses. And just to have everybody slug through everybody else's standbys. And of course, they don't fear any sort of, they don't, pretty much anything that can disrupt standby, Japan doesn't play. And if somebody were to say to self-brew something that can specifically take down all of these greedy standby lists, most Japanese players would crumble, because they're playing extremely greedy lists. Here's a good example. A common Love Live Sunshine Japanese list. They pretty much play 0 free things outside of level 1. Actually, outside of level 0. They play pretty much 0 free things. They play 14 level 0s. That's it. So outside of their 8 climaxes, they're pretty much playing 1/1, starting from level 1 onward. That's extremely greedy. And there's little to no payoff. The 1175 Hot Snow Chica. I go, why is that card in your deck? That card literally does nothing. They're like, well, if you stand by it in, you don't have to pay the cost. Okay, what if the card gets bounced? Most Japanese people would freeze at that comment, because they're like, this is Japan. No one bounces anything. No one plays No one plays winds. No one plays on reverse bounce combos. No one plays on play bounce. None of those are played in Japan. Yet, if somebody, let's say a foreigner, were to take a deck that literally does nothing but bounce your shit, and the guy has the goddamn luck of the Irish, aka you can't stop him. You can't bloody stop him. Good luck stopping him. Because, like, your 2/2s, bounced. 1/1s, bounced. Have fun hard casting all of that shit. That's why, in my opinion, it's better to look at decks that are currently performing well and brew it yourself so you can counter those decks.
Or improve upon what you're saying.
Or that. Like, for example, I have my own Love Live Sunshine list. Do I play extremely good like Japanese players now? Hell no! I respect the bounce. My shit gets bounced? Sure, I don't care. What about you, partner?
Yeah, I pretty much have a similar philosophy of thing. Like, yeah, okay, you could bounce me. I'll just find ultra game plan here.
I mean, I stand by a 2-1 Rickroll for a reason. Oh, you want to bounce it? Go ahead. It's bait. It's literally bounce bait. You either, if you keep it on the feet, if you let me keep it on the field, I get to hand filter for the rest of the game. You bounce it, you just enable the double early play for me. Thanks. Like, have fun with that.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a very powerful card for a reason.
Hell, that's why a certain sect of people want Rickroll just straight up banned. Which won't happen.
I don't blame them.
Well, that won't happen.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't blame the sentiment.
Alrighty, let's move on to the next one, shall we?
So you know, ratios. While you could run up to 4 copies of a card, some cards simply don't need to exist in such quantities in a competitive deck. So, you know, a 4 of, you really want to see this card in your hand or on the board every game no matter what. A 3 of, you do want to see this card every game, but you don't really mind if there are some games in which it's not in your hand. A 2 of could be handy in some games, but not entirely necessary. And a 1 of, it's not something you should need outside of a French scenario, but it is a card you'd rather have and not need than to need and not have.
Yes, the tech options. Tech options are vital in this game. Like, again, don't go ham. I'll bring up Japanese lists. Again, don't go ham like that and go and literally put your entire, like, half your deck as 1-ups. You know, that's going too far. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Like, how the hell are you supposed to play the game? It's just like, well, I need to find Diabika. Oh crap, she went to stock like 5 turns ago. How the hell am I supposed to dig around? You don't. You don't at that point.
Right.
And then, now of course, you know, playing the 1 of bounce. Hey, that is insanely useful. Or hell, playing that 1 of spare restander. That's also insanely good. Or hell, playing the one of demonic tutor. You know, that's also really good.
Right. But for these ones, sometimes just go, okay, maybe some games I just don't need the card. So you go mine to go in stock or something.
That's fine. You clock or even clock or level off of the card. You don't need it.
Right.
Now, of course, if you want to provide some more examples, let's see here. Another example that I can think of that is a good 1 of. Let me go ahead and find it real quick. Let me look at my own Love Live Sunshine deck real quick to see if there's any. Yes, the Chikafumio. Chikafumio in Love Live Sunshine. I put that as a 1 of because, well, it's not really something that you can really use, like, outside of, like, perfect timing. Like, if you see that card, if your opponent is asking about your grave state, and they're playing Love Live Sunshine, you can probably suspect this card's coming down. Probably suspect it. Now, of course, the reason why I choose to play the Chica version is because she's fetchable. I think my partner can agree with me on the Chica version.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Versus the Rickroll version. Now, of course, both of those cards are 1-ofs, and those are good 1-ofs. Because unless your opponent is literally like, their graveyard is like 15 damage in one climax, has an absurd amount of damage compared to the amount of climaxes, you don't want to necessarily be reshuffling all those climaxes in. Mm-hmm. However, you want to reshuffle all the damage in, though. Hell yeah. Let's go, boys. Let's get it. Let's fucking get it. Let's go. For those of you in scrims, for those of you that watch the scrimmages, you'll see both of us use that particular card with good timing to fuck over his opponent because refreshing infinite. Oh god damn it! Yeah, I'm just dead here. You just refreshed me with 15 additional damage.
Understandable.
Understandable. I'm probably just dead here. Now, of course, I gotta have my partner explain the 2-ofs.
Right. So 2-ofs, you're kind of like, there are some cases you're like, I do want to see it. It will probably come up more often than attack. But I can say you're like, if you play more than 2, you're like, this could start clogging. So this would be something like a early play that you don't necessarily need to play at level 2. It could be another healer that does something. For example, some people might play Mirai wa Bokura Shiteru Watching Abe Yo, an early play healer. You have 2 or fewer CXs as another early play option on top of, say, the Mirai ticket package. Because, it's another early play, she's big, she heals. And the conditions honestly not that hard to get off.
Well, actually, another excellent 2-of is Alcina with Rapier. She's a digger. She's just a big digger.
Mm-hmm. And she can come you could have her come down at you.
Yeah, she's not a bad option. But I think the majority of South players would prefer Yuchu and Kirito coming down instead.
Right.
Now, of course, 2-ofs they're not bad. They're definitely not bad options. You don't want to see them every bloody game though. Oh god, no. I have 3 of these in my hand. Crap, they're dead cards right now. Better clock them.
Right.
And at that point, you kind of want to avoid it. Of course, there's level 0s as well. Drop searches are typically 2-ofs because you don't want your hand flooded with damn things. Mm-hmm. Although some people are like, yeah, I'll play 4 drop searches. 4? Are you high?
It would have to be a very, very specific type of drop search.
Crimson Demon Genius Megami. That, I see that as 4-ofs.
That's questionable, but if it's a drop searcher like Water Blue New World Mari that has an additional ability on top of the drop search, which is a drawing ditch, then okay, yeah, 4-of. That's probably fine.
Let's get it.
There's a reason why that card's also restricted.
Or for example, the Time and Memory Shoko, Maki no Hara. Okay, so she's an early play that's a support and a digger. I don't want 4 of these things in my hand. Mm-hmm. I don't want 4 of these things. God damn. I prefer seeing the early play Shoko heal instead, because I'm yeah, I don't want. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not here to sing Dig the Dig all day.
Mm-hmm. Anti-change counters could typically be a 2-of. You might not need them every game, but hey, sometimes you just need to keep one for a certain problematic early play card.
Excuse me, sir. Early plays are becoming rampant.
They are, but mostly, a 2-of anti-change anti-change counter most likely will suffice.
True. Last in Yoshino.
Some of them we will consider to be a 3 or even 4-of, depending.
And man, I probably packed 3 Yoshino in my deck. Goddamn, that card is insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I will go ahead and move on to the 3-ofs. Okay, 3-ofs. You generally want to see this every game, but you don't mind if there are some games where you don't see it. So generally, as a 3-of, you'll see at least 1 copy throughout the game. They're generally cards that you want that you'll want to use, like you generally want to use, but you can't justify the fourth slot for it. Like, for example, a good one is Brainstorm. Well, Brainstorm, you generally want to see it, but at the same time, oh no, you destroyed my Brainstorm. Who cares?
Or, oh, I can't see it until turn 5. Oh well. I didn't really miss it that much.
And man, there are some people that crush with their fucking Brainstorm.
Yeah, I see you may, you guys are actually like searching around topping decks. A good chunk of if not a majority, run for as their Brainstorm.
And I just go scratching my head because I go, you people crushing your Brainstorm that badly? Like, Soul Sleeper has one of the biggest issues. He always crutches on his Brainstorm. I'm like, dude, you crushing your Brainstorm way too much.
Right, but hey, if you really feel, like, but at the same time, you really feel you needed that fourth Brainstorm for a reason, it's probably fine. A 4 versus 3, like, it's not that big of an impact overall. Juggle around with it, see what works better for you. We'll just say that.
Though that fourth Brainstorm could be a tech card.
Right.
That could save you in certain situations.
Right. You just have kind of like you gotta weigh the benefits and the drawbacks for yourself.
Personally, my co-host and I think we both only play 3 Brainstorms a pop now.
In general. The only French case would be something like that one Kurumi Brainstorm because it's like early play enabler. Now, of course, I used to be captain. 4 Brainstorms is mandatory. Now, just like 3 Brainstorms is more than enough. Yeah, I don't crunch on Brainstorm that much. These are things that you will notice as you grow as a competitive player. You will change your mind on certain types of cards. It's gonna happen.
Like for example, I thought early play diggers were garbage. No, I play early play diggers nowadays.
Like you have to start developing attitudes. Like you have to start embracing certain card profiles with an open mind and start abandoning the comfort you may have had with objectively inferior card profiles.
No, I mean, a good example is, let's say, remember those early, like 2016, somewhat fat early play heels, man?
Yeah.
Remember how good we used to think those were?
Yeah, a lot of people did think those were. Yep, we did.
And now they're just like utter garbage. They're like 9-5 heels, and it was like, ill, 9-5 heels. Remember when everyone thought Hanamaru from set 1 was good?
Oh yeah, I remember. Like, oh look, she can early play. She has this combo that can compress. What's not? Oh, she got big too. What's not to like?
Bruh. You just put a shot in one of your climax combo slots. You what? Like, we could play better combos than this. Hanamaru kinda sucks, man.
And this is especially true as your title develops with more and more expansions. So you're playing something like Love Live Sunshine or Sword Art Online that gets multiple expansions throughout its lifetime. You better start adapting to the new trends that Bushido is giving you.
I mean, they give you new toys on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Or hell, a more recent example, Albuta. Man, we gotta do the Kaide problem eventually. We gotta eventually do the Kaide problem because people still crush at Kaide. I'm like, Kaide is bad. Kaide is just bad. Like, oh, I used to think, oh, Kaide is amazing. No, Kaide is terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, alrighty. I think we should move on to the 4-ups before I get too ranty.
4-ups. These are things like climax combos. You need this shit to go off every game, no matter what happens. Things like your climax combo, very good level 0 frontliners. Things like your finisher combo or something that or you're more of a defensive deck. That thing that increases your survivability up the wazoo. These things are like, if you don't see this, your game plan is broken apart from the inside.
Yo, can I just have 3x Shoko every fucking game? What?
But yeah, that's what 4 of is. Very
Yep.
effing crucial to your game plan card.
Yeah, you want it every game, preferably in 3x copies.
Right.
Lamella, let's fucking go, boys.
And that's going to bring us to our next point about editing your deck. Because as you continue to build and play test with your decks, you will find that changes may be necessary to increase your chance at success. Take notes, whether physically or mentally, but whichever you prefer, on which cards in your deck need to appear more often or less often, which cards you may need to cut entirely, and which cards you need to implement from the get-go.
Alrighty, so do not get sentimental about your deck. Do not get sentimental, because guess what? The more sentimental you get, the harder it's going to be to rip the deck apart when it doesn't work anymore. You need to stop living in the past, Weiss Schwarz players. You really need to stop living in the past, because guess what? Bushiroad don't care about the past. They care about the here and now. Like, it was really tough for me to put Sunshine down, but I had to put the old girl down for a few years. Of course, I repicked her back up, but at the same time, I go, well, the old girl's dead now. And now she's transformed into something else. But now I just have all of these other powerful toys. Now, that's the thing about diversification. You need to, in my opinion, you should be diversifying your decks. Like, don't just play one set. Diversify yourself. You know, of course, if you want to be someone like myself who has, you know, like 10 or so powerful decks at a time, sure, they're all good. But that gets rather expensive. But I'd recommend at least diversifying into, say, 3 or 4 competitive decks.
Right. And, if anything, live within your means, as well as learn how to play these 3 to 4 decks to a very, very high level of proficiency. Like, you could have like 10 plus powerful decks, but that's really not that good. You don't know how to play over half of them to a high proficient level.
I mean, that's kind of the trap that I fell into last year. Yes, I have 1 billion powerful decks. Half of them come up on the dice. Oh, crap. Like,
do I remember how to play this? Thinking.
Do I remember how to play this? Okay, I gotta read my cards. But you spend half the time reading your cards because you don't fucking know what this deck does anymore because it's been a while. Like, for example, Sympho Gear. I bought that last year. Don't ask me why. But I thought Sympho Gear would actually be good. Oh my god, initiate Keck W here.
And, sometimes, this is part of the process. You have to make mistakes to learn how to improve. even if it's a financial mistake.
Oh my god, fucking Nympho Gear cost me a lot of money, and that deck is sitting in the abyss currently. In the literal abyss.
Like, this is part of the process. Learn, and this is another thing about, like, going a little off topic. This is part of, like, consulting with players who are more experienced than you. They can tell you what mistakes they've made so that you, the newer competitive player, can avoid them.
Oh yeah. And I should have listened when people told me, yeah, dude, Nympho Gear is a mistake, don't buy into it. And my stupid ass bought into it. Yeah. Yeah. Just also be prepared. Also, when buying your singles, please buy spares, just in case. Now, don't fall for the trap of buying a playset pre-ordered, because if that set turns out to be garbage, you just made a gigantic financial mistake.
It's a little better for English players only because they will already have seen how well that title, if it's not an English exclusive, by the way, they will have already seen what that title has done, or what that set has done in Japan prior.
But then again, a set like Magia Record Anime. I feel sorry for anybody who sunk $350 into that fucking set. Man, they might as well have burnt that money. Watching that garbage fire.
Well, again, as we said already, making mistakes is part of the process of getting better.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't invest into sets that you're not absolutely like. If you're going to invest in a playset, be prepared for that set to be completely and utterly unplayable.
Right.
Go into the expectation of your set being completely and utterly unplayable.
Mm-hmm. Which is why, like, for a lot of competitive players, most people, a good majority of folks go like, okay, we'll just wait until the full card pool is revealed, and then start cherry picking if there are cards that are worth picking up. Yo, don't buy the farm plot. Just buy the good fruit that came out of that plot.
Hey, but man, but some people want to buy their playset and be able to change their deck on the fly. And I go, well, have fun with the garbage fire. But then again, you'll see nothing but complaints saying, where, I sank money into this garbage fire. I'm like, that's your problem.
Yeah, well, again, it's all part of the process. We live and learn.
Yep.
So, speaking of living and learning, now that you have your deck ready to go, where do you begin? Well, why not start at your local tournament? Because this will allow you to further develop your consistency and provide more opportunities for yourself to see where improvements can be made in both your deck building and your gameplay. And attending these events, especially on a week-to-week basis, will also allow you to meet and get together with like-minded individuals who may have similar goals as yourself towards competitive play.
Now, be aware that your local community may not be so nice. My local community is not so nice. So I came into my locals, innocent. Innocent, not knowing what the hell's going on. So apparently the supposed leader at the time marked me for death, basically. Basically, they didn't like me coming in on day one. I came in wearing my trademark suit. Came in with no idea what I'm doing, and of course they turned me into mincemeat. They practically shredded me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yo, what the hell? Yeah, I thought everyone was casual here, because the person that introduced me to the game said, oh yeah, everybody's casual,
And you're like, okay, that sounds pretty fun. I will let you meet these people.
And then I get sent to the fucking meat grinder. Yeah.
Now, I will say this is a very big one-off in the grander scheme of the greater Weiss Schwarz community.
And of course, their mentality is beat them up until they either toughen up or get lost. Mm-hmm. They're pretty much
definitely not the best way to foster a community. But as I'm saying, like, and Gavin can agree with me here, this scenario is like a very big anomaly in the greater Weiss Schwarz community.
Oh yeah. They will. And the thing is that I can see why they would, but at the same time, I don't agree with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, how should I say this? And the thing is that beating people up until they either leave, which is the more likely option, or they toughen up, which I did. By the way, you won't garner any respect from these people even after you toughen up. That's the problem. You won't garner any respect from them.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they will actually look at you with disdain because you toughened up. Because you can stand up to them, and they didn't like you from day one. So there are a lot of people in my town that are willing to give the game a try, but they abandon the game rather quick because of the fact that the community is like this. They're basically the mafia, but at least mafioso have the decency to smile in your face. They'll send you to the meat grinder in private, of course. but at least mafioso have the decency to smile at your face and at least feign a sign of respect. They may not like you, but at least they should show respect towards you. You know, they want you dead. They want you dead. Mafioso generally want you dead. And, you know, by dead in this case, they mean they want you gone. Because you weren't part of their little clique back in the day. You didn't grow up with them. No, you're a... That's why, like, local tournament... That's why I pretty much please urge everybody that's listening to my voice right now, please do not treat new players like this. Please don't.
Mm-hmm. I would speak from... Because I think I've been to more local game shops than Gavin throughout my own Weiss Schwarz career versus him.
Oh yeah.
And I can speak that from like every one of these I went to, I felt more or less welcome at everyone I've been to, and I've been to a good amount across, in just like my own home state of California. Like I've seen a lot of very, very nice folks who are willing to show newer players the ropes on how to do things if they're open about asking and so on. And, they're willing to help one another grow as players and as a community overall.
Like, I've met players at high level play. Mm-hmm. They're pretty friendly folk. Mm-hmm. They'll take you down. Obviously, we're here to win. Mm-hmm. Everybody's there to win. Right. But at least they will fight you with a smile.
Right. And maybe after you get the game done, you might become very good friends.
Even still, like, even the more quote unquote competitive crowd, like, I've even one of the most prolific people in the community, Thomas the Differential Engine. He was willing to at least show some concern and show at least mutual respect for me. Mm-hmm. After our game was done. I lost, of course, but again, it's part of the game. Mm-hmm. It's part of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't win them all, and I accept that. Mm-hmm. But and at least going to your local game shop is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Like, playing at your local game shop is generally a good thing. Mm-hmm. The case that I listed, again, even my own apprentice, the Soul Sleeper, they showed him literally zero respect. They won't even acknowledge his existence. They consider him an outsider that doesn't even live in this town. And they consider, his victory at our local World Grand Prix as a theft of their invite. And I go, you guys can't even give him props for beating your asses. You guys can't even give him props for that. Jesus Christ. Which just make me go, this community sucks.
And of course, just to make, just to be clear here, he means like his very, very local community, not the greater, like, North American or the greater worldwide Weiss Schwarz community here.
No. The greater North American community is full of nice people. Mm-hmm. I would love to play at, say, California's locals, Arizona's locals. Mm-hmm. I think I blended in the Ileana group. Though, sure. Oh boy, though the Ileana group might
they'll probably initiate you pretty well.
Yeah, I was about to say they're a rough and tumble bunch, but at least they'll rough you up with a smile on their face.
Oh yeah, definitely. Anyway, that brings us to a pretty good point for this one here: the World Grand Prix regional qualifiers. These officially sanctioned events are held once a year across many parts of the world and are great events to see how well you have grown on a year-to-year basis. You may encounter players you seldom see at your own local tournaments, or even meet players you have never met before. Giving yourself a taste of what players from outside of your local game store choose to go about the game, signal again, being an opportunity to gain new knowledge, new skill sets, and heck, you may even choose to travel outside of your own local area and get yourself exposed to an entirely different environment and choose to test your capabilities in unfamiliar territory.
Oh boy, so like I was alluding to earlier, World Grand Prix. This is the one tournament that Japanese players get to participate in. Now, of course, this is a JP-focused channel, because of the fact that, well, the English Weiss Schwarz is kind of crowded, honestly. That's why we chose to focus on the JP side of things. Mm-hmm. Now, regional qualifiers. They're kind of, how should I say this? A lot of people will call them glorified locals. Mm-hmm. Which they are. Don't get me wrong. They're glorified locals.
Now,
but
quick asterisk there. This is more pertaining to the North American side, because I believe in, let's say, Japan or parts of East and Southeast Asia, the World Grand Prix regional qualifiers are held in like convention centers or hotel ballrooms or something like that.
Right. As opposed to North America, which everybody plays at local game stores, or with some exceptions, of course. Mm-hmm. Specifically the ones in Arizona and Massachusetts, which are held at a guy's house and the public library, as case examples. Don't know why, but they're held at those two locations.
Anyway, moving along.
Moving along. So, again, World Grand Prix is the one tournament a year, and a lot of people do care about it, actually. Mm-hmm. Of course, the World Grand Prix in North America is ran by Heart of the Cards, aka Hammer Girl Anime. Mm-hmm. Oh boy, there's going to be quite a bit of complaints about that one. Oh boy. Hot Sea is not exactly the best organization. I think my partner can agree with me on that one.
Right. But at the same time, it is because of them that North America specifically gets to participate in this normally exclusive for Japanese players in Japan, China, South Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, etc.
Basically, the eastern half of the world.
Right.
The fact that we even get to send the one guy to two worlds. Mm-hmm. I mean, Europe also sends one person as well. They're an entire continent, and they're one of. But at the same time, I go. Again, please try to don't diss the winner of your WGP. Please don't.
Mm-hmm. Like whether or not they were actually in your local area or traveled a good distance to get there, acknowledge that they won, accept that they've won, respect that they've won. Don't take your anger out on anybody. Again, losses happen, but having a good attitude to move yourself forward is more important than getting pissed off that someone outside your local area got the invite.
Now, that brings me to the thing about invasion. Please, if you can, stay in your goddamn area. Oh my god. The amount of invasion that we have to deal with, especially from you Californians. Goddamn, stay in your own goddamn yard, please. Because, we're just trying to. But hell, ironically, my hometown is much more welcoming towards the Californians than the Soul Sleeper. In fact, I've even seen comments of people from my hometown inviting the Californians. Be like, please invade so we don't have to send this guy every fucking year. It's getting annoying. I'm like, or you could acknowledge the guy fucking wins every year despite you inviting the Californians. He stomps the Californians too. So get off my goddamn yard. Why don't you get good and beat him? If you care so much, then get good and beat him. Or hell, travel to Rochester yourself and go and participate at WGP at Nationals every year. Their bark is louder than their bite.
Well,
and
again, it's all about their own attitude. They've chosen to spend their energy and effort to get pissy about a situation they don't like versus actually taking that energy and effort to improve their own game.
Right, and it's one of those things like, hell. Oh, by the way, for those of you who get pissy about the results of the regional qualifiers, you could legitimately just fly to Rochester yourself and qualify anyway. Last chance qualifier is a thing, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? Yes, it's a sweaty tournament, but guess what? If you're good enough, you can get in. If you're so good at the game, then go and do last chance, man. Now, of course, my partner here has never done last chance. For whatever reason. I go, oh, come on, man, last chance isn't so bad.
No, it's more of I'll put the disclaimer here on myself. While I'm actually here giving advice on how to be a competitive player, I myself choose not to embrace every single part of it. But that's me.
And now I myself have participated in last chance. Holy crap, it's exhausting. Having to go through 2 big tournaments back to back. Oh man.
Yeah, that's my main concern. Like, do I really want to go through 2 big events in a single weekend? I don't think I do.
Oh man, the sweat is always real.
Hey, more power to you if you want to go through it. Like, clearly, like, while I'm here giving advice, I get I choose personally not to follow it to a T because I do not want to become like this big of a competitive player in the game.
Alrighty, let's move on. Let's move on.
So let's move on. So now that you finally qualified at a World Grand Prix regional qualifier, what do you do next? Well, let's talk about how to avoid getting overwhelmed. Because let's face it, the World Grand Prix Continental/National Championship can be quite a daunting event for those who make it for the first time, especially. Because it's going to be full of players in your country or region, all with similar goals of playing themselves up for the penultimate test of winning the event to become a representative to play at the World Grand Prix World Finals. And you just have to remember, like, hey, you have rightfully earned your place, regardless of what other players say. You have rightfully earned your place to show that you can do, to show what you can do against a small number of similarly capable players as yourself. So learn to develop a mental state such that you can have the most success.
Ironically, I've only qualified once myself, but I've been in nationals times, and I've played in the main event twice. Got in through last chance qualifier the second time.
Technically, the last chance qualifier is effectively a regional qualifier. It's just a regional qualifier with the leftover spots that people chose not to use.
Yeah, well. So I effectively took the second seat here.
Yeah. Like, if a seat chooses not to... Sorry, no. Another quick asterisk for those who don't know. Each World Grand Prix regional qualifier in North America gets... they get at minimum 2 invites. And if for some reason any number of people that won their invite choose not to go, that invite is automatically transferred to the last chance qualifier, where someone that goes and attends that has a chance to win one of those leftover spots.
Still, the fact that I'm taking a leftover spot, man. Oh, man. Of course. And the thing is that, well, the first time, oh my god, Jesus Christ, people had their doubts about me. They're like, oh god, he's barely in his second year of play and he's going to nationals already? Oh man. And by the time I hit my 4th year, everyone's all like, he knows by now. He's doing fine now.
For sure.
Now, of course, bringing Soul Sleeper. Oh god, I was worried about him. I was like, oh no. This guy won with a fucking rush deck. So, he faced 3 opponents with no mill. How the hell is he gonna stack him to fucking Nats? Where everybody's bona fide.
Mm-hmm.
And he's effectively using a gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
A gimmick deck. And I'm like, of course, he hasn't done very well. He went 1 in Dukes both years. I'm like, dude, you haven't gone positive yet. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Going positive is not hard in that. I was just like, oh, come on.
It takes time, right? It takes time and consistency, right?
Yeah, it does take time and consistency. And Nationals is only one event.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's the one event that everybody cares about.
Right. And because it is a one event, like, prepare for it, it's going to be a little tricky. But, you know, before you get to preparation, you have to be calm and collected to get that preparation in. So, you know, remaining calm. It will consist of several rounds against the most capable players you may get to come across in your entire career playing this game. So remaining calm will be crucial. Because remaining calm will allow you to make better decisions throughout the day, and I'm going to extend this to making better decisions when preparing for the event after you have confirmed your qualification and invite into that event. And, you know, again, just keep in mind that everyone you will play against has that similar goal. And perhaps someone that you actually meet at this event may one day become a very close and treasured comrade towards your growth as a competitive player.
Well, yeah, considering how we met, Lamau.
Yeah, so, while Gavin and I are not that far when it comes to the grander scheme of the United States as a country, we didn't meet until we were in Rochester, New York for the World Grand Prix Continental Qualifier in North America.
I was like, now, again, it's more of remaining calm. Okay, so, last year I faced off the leader of the Ileana gang. Yeah. He's pretty sweaty. Ben is pretty sweaty. It's like, I did not want to start off my day with facing off against Ben. Next.
I don't think even Ileana wants to do that.
Next. Jun.
Oh yes, good old Jung. And, shout out to Jung. Jung's one of the reasons why I am here today making videos like this.
And then next, and then my fourth opponent, Thomas the Differential Engine. Mm-hmm. Widely considered to be the best player in North America. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah.
It's a little funny, I'll make a quick story here. Like, I introduced him to the game, but because of how I wasn't really providing him with the real opportunities to grow as a competitive player, he went out on his own and sought the help of players all over the world to get to where he is now.
Yeah, he's widely considered as one of the best players in North America.
Like, I gave him the initial push he needed, but eventually he took off the training wheels and biked his own around the world figuratively to get to where he is now.
Well, I took off the training wheels after 2 years, so I took my training wheels off. Actually, that tournament proved that I could take off the training wheel. Mm-hmm. Oh god, that was rough. But yeah, that was last year's qualifier for me, and holy crap! I don't think anybody listening in could be like, yeah, that's an easy lineup. Like, what do you think of that lineup, man? Like, how would you feel facing those three guys?
Oh yeah, no, they're very capable players. Very capable. Like, I would be on the edge of my seat playing against any of them.
Well, I mean, considering Ben nearly killed me with Nelson, I knew what Ben was playing. I was like, oh god, it's Nelson! I saw Nelson, Musashi restand. I'm like, I'm 3-0. I'm fucking dead. I'm fucking dead.
Sounds about
like,
right.
Oh. But I somehow beat him. I don't fucking know how.
Hey, sometimes. That's another thing about like big events like the World Grand Prix, Continental, or National Qualifier. Sometimes RNG just favors you in a very, very unlikely way, or it disfavors you in a very unlikely way. You have to accept that sometimes RNG is gonna be the thing that turns the table to your favor or away from your favor.
Oh, and thank you, Hayate Money Counter, for being pre-combat so I can money counter that fucking restand.
Nice.
Fucking restand! Again, dude, what would you do in that situation?
Hey, that's how it is. When you have access to cards like that, you gotta know how to use them, right?
Money counter that fucking restand, man!
Seems good.
I mean, it's either that or the Musashi. What would you pick?
I probably choose to restand.
Restand?
Because of how flexible it could be.
I'm like, okay, hitting me for 3 threes in a row? Ow, ow, ow?
Yeah. Alright. And of course, we gotta talk about how to actually prepare and perform well at the continental or national level. So, unlike your local tournaments that you have on the weekly and the World Grand Prix regional qualifiers that you had prior to qualifying, the metagame you will face is most likely going to become unfamiliar territory to you. So, that being said, maybe take a look and see what decks are having success throughout the circuit, especially those very, very close towards the day of the Continental and National Championship, because those will most likely contain cards from sets that release very close to that special date. So, as I was to say, start paying close attention to sets releasing in between the day on which you qualified and the day of the big event itself, and figure out whether or not you should make changes to prepare for decks that can be built off of cards using these more newer, more closer to the event sets, or maybe even consider building, playtesting, and optimizing a deck incorporating such a release.
Okay, so yeah, another story. I faced Review Starlight at Last Chance Qualifier the day after it released.
Fun.
I'm like, oh, bro, I have no idea what Review Starlight does. Like, I know what set 1 does. Set 2? Oh, crap.
Like, sometimes you have stuff like that's a very extreme example where, like, that set drops right before the weekend of. Which is a bit of a double-edged sword, because then it's like, yes, a release, but at the same time, you're also like, did people really get enough of a chance to play, test, and optimize this stuff out?
I lost to that matchup, dude.
And sometimes that's how it is, right?
No, of course, the guy didn't wind up getting in. Oof. Rip Tide Pro on that one. But at the same time, I go, how to perform well at this? Well, let's see here. Go to the interview page on Hoxie's website and look at the winning decks.
And sometimes the actual interview answers will give some useful information.
Right. Also, well, unless you're someone like me who just put memes.
Yeah, every year a few players will expose almost everything they've done.
Of course.
Again, maybe not just necessarily Hoxie's webpage, but also things like maybe YouTube channels might have people who got interviewed for a deck profile for said qualifying event. No.
Oh yeah, sure.
Lots of resources out there.
Also, do not, my God, what's the word for it? Don't discredit the Maniac either. Learn how the Maniac won their matchups. At least get an idea of what he faced and understand, okay, how, like, a good example. Burn won a couple years ago, discredited the Soul Sleeper's deck as what the actual fuck, and he immediately just X'd out of the page without even looking at what the deck does and why he won. He just immediately discredited the deck as brash, and I'm like, the deck's a gimmick, yes, but at the same time, don't just immediately discredit it, because that deck was specifically built to disassemble standby decks. Standby decks don't hardcast their shit ever, and are very rarely willing to hardcast anything. So, in terms of that, you also need to look at gimmicks. That's why I've told Soul Sleeper to no longer publish his list. To keep his list a secret. So because surprise value is huge in this.
Definitely.
With so little responses to what your opponent can.
Right. So some people do, quick off mode. Some people do complain that Weiss Schwarz is a very uninteractive game overall. But at the same time, that is how we can get stuff like quote-unquote maniac decks performing well every once in a blue moon.
Right, and people can't, you can't really complain about it because guess what? They don't think about the maniac. They just immediately dismiss the maniac or ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how the maniac wins. By abusing the competitive mentality of ignore him. He is the one person in the room that you ought to lose to. And if you happen to be 3-1 at the time, and he's 4-0, you're pretty much getting eliminated, and he's moving on with a 5-0 record. He's pretty much advancing to the Super 16 regardless in that situation because, again, you chose to ignore him, and don't come crying that you chose to ignore him.
I would argue that ignoring him is not a quote-unquote competitive strategy. Because a real competitive strategy would mean to prepare for anything and everything possible. Would you not agree?
Yeah. It's like, how can you call yourself competitive if you don't prepare for literally anything in front of you? The guy could literally be playing nothing but plus soul vanillas all day. And you have to prepare for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if you don't adjust your list at all for it, at least prepare for it mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And majority of people will be like, you don't need to prepare for that because you'll never see that at now. Soul Sleeper, perfect example of somebody who is willing to play that strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And if he didn't win 2 years ago, I'd be in the same boat. Just ignore the Soul Rush. Like, Soul Rush is viable. It is viable, but you have to realize what kind of board you're playing against.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing, say, 2 years ago, man, would you agree with me that we were in a very standby heavy meta 2 years ago?
Roughly speaking, yes.
So why not take Soul Rush? Because Soul Rush can't handle Soul Rush, like, especially his deck, like an on reverse bounce at level 1. Can you legitimately handle being, having your standby target bounce even once?
Like, overall, it will set a standby deck back at least a turn or two, and that can start adding up quickly the more of these that go off.
Like, imagine you getting bounced times.
Oh, then yeah, it will become very difficult.
You lose. Sure, he'll be bleeding hand the entire game. He doesn't care because you're dying.
You're dying, and you're unable to respond with a good enough momentum to keep yourself on parity with the guy at the very minimum.
I mean, yes, he will be crashing in shitters, but does it really matter anymore at that point? Like, the guy is also inherently very lucky too. Holy crap!
So, for those who have watched Cardfight Vanguard G, I would probably compare to someone like, say, Chrono Shindo. Guy may not have been playing the game for that long, but but his luck will propel him quite the ways.
Imagine this. You have a near perfect board, right? He has what he does. He doesn't draw his bounce, but it's somewhere in his deck. It could be the only one left in like 20 cards. He'll check the bounce. He'll trigger check that bounce when he needs it. That's the kind of luck. That's the kind of luck the guy has. Like, he'll pretty much.
And sometimes that's the game. Sometimes you just end up. So you could play, like as we're saying here, you could play your best game, but RNG can and will happen, and you could just lose to variance itself, and you have to accept that variance can be a thing you lose to.
And guess what? Most competitive players will ignore variance. They'll just ignore it.
Which is very counterintuitive because you're like, this is a game with variance. It's not a card game without variance.
I mean, this isn't chess.
Yeah, you really like a non-variance game, we really just say, yeah, go play chess, go play a fighting video game.
Hell, even fighting video games have some variants of them.
Some, but very few. Whoa.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's definitely not CCG level.
that's true. That's true. But at the same time, go play a game like chess. And a lot of card game players are like, "Ill, chess is boring. Like chess has already been solved." I'm like, well, you're choosing to by playing the game, you accept that variance is a thing, and that you could lose. You could very well lose to variance. Hell, you can even lose to variance within the same game. Like, you could have great luck at the beginning of the game, but if you just take the next 2 levels worth of damage, you die immediately. And there's nothing you can do about it. But at the same time, I go, you need to factor, sure, at the national level, there's only 1, maybe 2 maniacs. But if you happen to sit across from them, you need to be prepared for that maniac. You need to be prepared for it. In fact, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised at the amount of maniacs that appear. Like, for example, let's say, Dodai takes Europe. Fucking Dodai takes Europe. And most people be like, Dodai is a fucking meme. I'm like, well, guess what? That meme just took your continent and is representing you. That player who took Dodai is literally representing you at Worlds. And most people try to counter argue that they won with X meme, and I go, yes, you just lost to X meme. You just lost to it. How does that make you feel? And a lot of people will be like, feeling really shitty, or they'll just shut up after that because they don't really know how to respond to a question like that. How does it feel to lose to that meme? And you know what? If people ask me the same question, I feel proud. I feel proud that I managed to raise someone that took a meme, a literal meme, and crushed competitive players with it. Like, how, like, that just makes me feel amazing, honestly. Like, nobody wants to cheer for the underdog anymore. I don't know why. Everyone, it's the thing with gaming nowadays. Everybody tries to metagame everything. They just try to metagame everything. I'm like,
Sometimes thinking outside the box is what it takes to give you that extra chance of success.
Exactly. No, I'm not saying that metagame's not important. However, you gotta think outside the box sometimes, and thinking outside the box can lead to victory. In fact, that's how Soul Sleeper has been winning. He thinks outside the box. And to be honest, that's pretty much like, if you're at a competitive stalemate, like if you feel you can't grow as a competitive player, step outside for a second and think outside the box. Consider the quote-unquote unplayable garbage cards for a moment, and see if they will help improve your gameplay. And maybe build yourself a meme deck, and take that to a WGP one year and see how you perform. If you happen to win, huzzah! If not, okay, that's fine. Because, most players will get salty over when losing to said meme. Like, can you imagine Dodai taking HSI, a slot from HSI? How salty would those Californians be?
I mean, some of them might be saltier than others, but some of them will be like, "Wow, that happened. Sick."
Like fucking Dodai takes it, man. Or Soul Sleeper's Rush deck from 2 years ago. Something like that takes HSI. How would the Californians react?
Like, again, probably like a similar reaction. Like, some people will be like, "Oh, really? This kind of jank made it through?" And some people will be like, "Whoa, jank made it through, guys."
Let's fucking get it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, that's the thing. Like, this is why I love California. We have a pretty nice mix of competitive players who are also, we have a very, very nice proportion of competitive players who are also very open-minded and embracing of all sorts of things.
I mean, I would love to play. Like for example, I did play at HSI's local. It was a mix of S fucking get it and dear God, no. Why did this jank win?
Hey, that's how it is sometimes.
And you know what? I had more fun playing the S get it players.
I feel it.
S fucking get it, boys! Come on, let's go win! Oh no! I died to the meme!
Hey, no. I totally get it.
But regardless, if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to post them in the comments because you know what?
We're definitely open to having a conversation about this because, again, as we said in previous videos, we're definitely not like some grand experts at the game or anything like that. This is just simply like our opinions on like how we think you should grow as a competitive player.
Now, of course, please, ring the bell, like the video, comment, favorite, subscribe, because it
Ups the YouTube algorithm.
Yep. Hey, we swapped roles for one, Lamau.
Hey, sometimes you gotta change it up, right?
Oh, by the way, stay tuned next week, guys, because we're going more in depth on the World Grand Prix.
Ah, yes, that'll be fun. So, until then, we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.